Hola, mi nombre es Vicente Gómez. Mi finca la conforman 5 hectáreas. Creo que el cacao es un buen negocio porque así podemos sostener nuestra familia, y como agricultores tenemos que buscar clones de alto rendimiento de producción para lograr por hectárea una mayor productividad.
Oh, Ghana had it. Juma kesi ahodo e wa ha ni bi hu. Juma esombo pa obi o wokoko kesi mi die mpodi esua. Momo akesi ne de omu sika sika juma pa.
Mi nombre es Olger Giovanni de las Rojas. Tengo 4 hijas. Mi desempeño es agricultor de cacao. Tengo 8 hectáreas de cacao. Y me siento conforme, me siento en mi trabajo, me siento bien, es lo que me gusta, es algo que yo siempre he querido tener, algo mío propio, y lo he logrado.
En tout cas, le travail du cacao, c'est bon, parce que c'est ça qui nous permet d'envoyer les enfants à l'école, nous-mêmes pour nos besoins personnels. En tout cas, celui qui n'a pas fait champ de cacao, vraiment, c'est pas bon. On doit faire champ de cacao. C'est ça qui est la Côte d'Ivoire.
Meu nome é Ana Paula Souza, sou brasileira, tenho 39 anos, moro na cidade de Gandu, na Bahia. É com muita alegria que vivo da cacauicultura, que sou produtora rural. Eu e meu companheiro, que também é produtor rural, temos 2 filhos. E foi através da parceria com a cooperativa que nós, enquanto produtores rurais, nos profissionalizamos e estamos crescendo dentro da nossa lavoura.
Hemos podido mirar cómo aumentamos la producción. Hemos aprendido a conocer cuáles son los clones de alto rendimiento de producción y los estoy implementando acá en la finca y me han dado un muy buen resultado.
Kita diajarin cara sambung pucuk, diajarin cara mangkas, kita tahu. Terus di segi pemasaran kita juga tahu. Pokoknya kita diajarin harus saling terbuka, nggak di manajemen keuangan kita juga terbuka, semua tahu, nggak ada yang disembunyikan. Kita dibuat saling menghargai si kerjasama di petani, di segi pemasaran keuangan kita diajari.
Mi finca de cacao sí me parece para mí un buen negocio porque lo veo relativamente muy bien porque de eso vivo, de eso me alimento, de eso pago mis deudas, mis gastos y lo veo bien, lo veo bien. Hay sus subidas, sus bajadas, pero lo veo bien para mí. Sí he recibido charlas, preparaciones, he podido mejorar gracias a esos consejos, a esas prácticas, mejorar mi cultivo, mi cosecha. He podido mejorar mi calidad del producto en tema de fermentación, calificación, calidad, para poder tener un mejor producto. También hemos tenido capacitaciones de primeros auxilios, capacitaciones de cómo mejorar el medio ambiente.
Omankrofo ba bekyerɛkyerɛ na NGOs ahodoɔ nso mankrofo bekyerɛkyerɛ sɛnea yɛbɛtumi ayɛ adwuma no yie na ayɛ mfasoɔ de ama yɛn ne yɛbusu.
Nti ohwɛ a ntete ahodoɔ a munya no ade sunsuansoɔ aba wɔ adwuma no mu.
Ade sunsuansoɔ kɛseɛ because ɛtɔda na yɛkuafoɔ no yɛsiesie yɛ kookoo ni mu a ne yɛyɛ mu hyehyɛ yɛn efi sɛ yɛsɛe no. Ntete yɛ ne ba na yɛde anigye som ne yɛyɛ a ɛma afei yɛhu sɛ cocoa no senia ɛsoɔ senia enyi kyɛne nyinaa nsonsonoe abam esan senia nteteɛ no ɛde ma yɛn a yɛn nso yɛde yɛ adwuma.
E assim, com certeza, nós estamos produzindo, trabalhando numa cacauicultura para o futuro, para os nossos filhos, para os nossos netos. Essa é a nossa proposta, essa é a nossa verdadeira riqueza.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the conference. And welcome to this session, What's Next for the Dialogue on Living Income. My name is Jordi van Honk. I'm the Global Agriculture Director for Cocoa, Coffee and Tea at IDH, Sustainable Trade Initiative, and I have the pleasure to moderate this panel. And let me just start by saying a big thanks to the WCF team and all the farmers who have given those great testimonials on the importance of the collaborative work that is inevitably going on in the field in partnerships between companies and farmers and local governments. Today we will talk about living income, as this is an exciting topic, and also a topic that we have seen has brought us quite far over the past year in clear understanding on what is a living income. However, we have also missed often a calm, reflective debate on the how on living income, how to close living income gaps. And this week we have seen the launch of a very important paper that aims to contribute to that dialogue. And that paper is called No Silver Bullets, Closing the $10 billion living income gap in cocoa. And this paper was launched by Mondelez and Wageningen University. And the paper will also be shared here in the chat. And we will discuss some of the major findings today in this panel. You can also contribute by raising your questions in the chat function, and we will try to get back to them during this panel or after this panel. Now, let me start by first going to Kati Peters. Kati, I think you have been a great resource behind this paper, as the paper is very much based on all the findings, on the measurements that Cocoa Life has done. Could you maybe set the scene and share us the main findings of the paper? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Thank you, Jordi, and thank you, WCF. And good morning or afternoon or evening to all. It was actually really good to see these prosperous cocoa farmers across the world telling their stories in the video, which definitely also gives a little bit of hope. Anyway, I'll set a little bit the scene. And I'll start maybe by saying at Mondelez, we understand that we have a critical role to play throughout the cocoa value chain, which is why many of you may remember about 8 years ago, we committed to investing at least $400 million in our Cocoa Life program and additional farmer premiums to holistically address the root causes of the social and economic environmental challenges. And today, I think it's also important to say that as we have fully embraced and paid the living income differential for all cocoa that we source from Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, paying that full increase of $400 per metric ton means that our investment in lifting cocoa farming families out of poverty has doubled. Anyway, at Cocoa Life, many of you know as well, increasing farmer income has been at the heart of our interventions and our core KPI since day one. And we have actually over time evolved from lifting farmers out of poverty towards enabling a living income, which is now our key KPI. And I would maybe add to that that being a business and applying business rigor to our sustainability program, we have allowed ourselves the means to systematically measure the impact of our interventions on the ground, including understanding net household income, both from cocoa and additional sources. And that is leading, indeed, as some of you may have seen already, the fact that earlier this week we published, I would say, the short paper called No Silver Bullets, co-authored with Wageningen University and research, because there will be a longer paper. The full paper will be released in a few weeks' time. And let me thank you, Yuka and Manuel, in our team for your authentic and refreshing collaboration to analyze the data, because your work today allows to reveal new insights around cocoa farming households reaching a living income. So, highlights. While the paper shows the potential to advance cocoa farmers in West Africa towards a living income through a variety of income-enhancing interventions, it also uncovers the reality of the size of the income gap and the limited number of cocoa farming households that realistically attain the critical conditions to reach a living income with cocoa-centric tools alone. So 3 big findings to be highlighted. Our data show that only about 30% of current cocoa farmers in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire realistically reach those critical conditions, such as land access, or size of land, or productivity, and others, to reach a living income from cocoa. Secondly, the paper also estimates the annual income gap at $10 billion, and that is using the income gap that allows for a clear majority of households in both countries to reach a living income. And then the third one is, if we all want to be looking at closing that income gap, that would definitely require strong and thriving and diversified rural economies, where households have a variety of choices and can see clear pathways to reaching living income. So we're excited with the understanding of the insights. We believe that more than ever, it is important to share these insights, as we hope that they will help understand and embrace the size of the challenge. And also by doing so, we hope that as a sector, we can evolve from sometimes finger pointing or outsmarting each other to genuine sector-wide and beyond, actually, collaboration, where the role of all actors contributing and actually benefiting from strong rural economies are well identified so that their strengths can best be leveraged. The paper does suggest several concrete actions that we can discuss maybe later on today's panel, Jordi. But I will wrap up by saying it's definitely my hope that this work and today's discussion can lead to renewed trust for all actors to collaborate in a modern, authentic, but most importantly, impactful way. And yeah, all of that being said, Jordi, I'm handing back over to you.
Thank you so much, Kati. And before I come back to you later, just one follow-up question. Since you have been so much as the program director for Cocoa Life, right? So much involved in the program. What was the biggest surprise for you that this paper brought to you?
There's a lot of things that we know and we talk about in the sector for a while, but just having the facts, data-driven elements that clearly point out that today, with cocoa-centric tools alone, only a proportion, and a small portion actually, of the cocoa farmers in those 2 countries will reach potentially a living income if we only look at cocoa-centric tools. So that being only 30% was a big eye-opener. And then when the team started really calculating, so what does that mean? What's the size of the gap that we're actually looking at? And then understanding that if we want to get to at least 75% of the smallholder, the cocoa farmers reaching a living income, that would take $10 billion a year. That were the two standouts, I would say.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think it's also very useful insight, right? As we have seen more commitments on living income. And the first time now we have a real number to the challenge, which I also think is really good. Thank you, Kati. And with your permission, I will come back to you later.
Sure.
Thank you. Now I would like to move to Jukka Waarts, who is a senior researcher on sustainable value chains at Wageningen University and Research, and a co-author to this paper. Hi, Jukka. Maybe you can say a little bit more about data-driven evidence, right? So that this is really your daily work, I think, knowing you already for a while. What have you seen and learned from data on what works and what doesn't work on the issue of smallholder poverty? And maybe also give some promises to the future, right? So which approaches really work according to your research? Thank you, Jukka.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this opportunity and to speak today. So thank you for the invitation. Yeah, I would like to add to Kathy's story and about the experience we had, because we've been doing research in cocoa for more than 10 years and in tea for even longer. And by looking differently at the data we collected and using already existing data, which we've done now together with Cocoa Life, adding more data to our analysis, you come to sometimes surprising results. And Kathy said eye-opening. I would rather say for us, we were rather, I would say, negatively surprised about the extent of poverty and the big gap which there is, which made us look at what are the drivers of that poverty. And Kathy already mentioned them. So specifically what we see is the small farm sizes, which came really apparent in our study. And the expectations are that farm sizes will even become smaller over time because populations continue to grow. So that's definitely something, a challenge that could be addressed. That's obviously not an easy one, and there's a lot of sensitivity around it, but it's something we still would like to mention in this debate. Furthermore, low yields, which cannot easily be increased because farmers simply do not have the assets to invest in their production. So one of the assumptions, for instance, behind a lot of the programs is help the farmers invest so they can increase their yields and improve their incomes. But that's simply a challenge for a huge number of the farmers to invest even a little. And the third is sort of the alternative opportunities for earning an income. People simply don't have a choice. Or if there are opportunities, for instance, to diversify farm income, the market structures, for instance, aren't available. So there may be demand in the big cities, but sort of the linkages aren't there yet. So there's quite a challenge to be addressed. And what we found in looking at the data is actually identify the drivers, which is already helpful, we would say, in trying to find, well, better solutions. But the reality is that such better solutions cannot be simply implemented by one party by itself. A cooperative, for instance, is often focused on cocoa by itself. A cooperative won't be easily diversifying their services to the farmers. The same for the companies, the same for other actors involved in helping the farmers. So we need sort of to take a step back and to look at what are the drivers, what are the things we can do together and take each other's strength and work together in finding the solutions. Because it simply cannot be done by one single actor alone.
Thank you, Jukka, and maybe just to also get you to some maybe some positive comments on what can be done.
Yes.
What are the type of interventions that you, and it's also one of the questions raised in the chat box. What are the type of interventions on living income you have seen working, if any?
Well, Yeah, well, not on living income, because obviously living income is a recent debate, but related to poverty reduction, where you see that the best results are achieved by multi-stakeholder programs, which approach sort of the poverty challenge from multiple different angles, enabling environment, creating market linkages, getting more buyers on board, diversifying incomes, not only on farm, but also off farm, and supporting farmers in producing better, basically. But still, those programs also had a lot of challenges. So that I want to be positive, because I think the way forward is to work together, and then you have a better chance. But it's not an easy, quick fix. So I think that's something that people should realize.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Yuka. And is there any particular sector, country combination example that you could maybe give on top of your head, or is that? Well, maybe I'll let you you think about that, and I'll come back to you later.
But maybe I can say one thing more. What I like from this, what we did together with Mondelez, is actually adding data and sharing learnings together. So we have a better evidence base for making decisions and better solutions. I think that's also one of the positive ways which I see happening. Yeah.
More exchanges of data found on farmer programs.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, Yuka. Then I will move to the next speaker, who is that's Michael Amoa. Mr. Michael Amoa. Welcome. He is from the Ghana Cocoa Board, working on the monitoring and evaluation department, and has also been involved in the living income benchmark exercise in Ghana. Mr. Michael, could you maybe reflect a little bit on this whole living income discussion from the perspective of Ghana, and how do you look at the whole living income debate?
Thank you very much, Jody, and thank for being part. I'm happy to be part of this panel. I think Kathy and Yuka have set the stage, and the data is speaking for itself. It's interesting listening to them. I was brought up in the Ashanti region of cocoa of Ghana, which is the heart of cocoa, the second producing region of Ghana. Growing up in Ashanti region, when we talk about the rich people, women and men in Ghana, they were cocoa farmers. There are suburbs in Kumasi, which is the capital city of Ashanti, like Asafo, Fantini Town, and Ashanti New Town. You see huge buildings built out of cocoa money. Those days, when cocoa farmer speaks, he boasts of the acreage, the number of acres that he has, 100 acres. Now, I'm happy the data is showing that the farms are fragmented. See, from inheritance, now, once you die, the farms are divided, distributed to the children. The distribution keeps on. So you have smaller farm sizes. And once the farm sizes are small, the farmer will have a high discount rate for the future. He's thinking about bread and butter issue. The issue of long-term investment to improve on the living income doesn't come in. So I'm happy the data is speaking to what I was thinking. The other thing that comes in when we talk about living income in Ghana is the land-tenure system. Majority of our farmers are migrant farmers or caretaker farmers or sharecroppers. I would say about 80 to 90%. So you only have use right over the land. What is the motivation in doing investing long term? You see, so it makes it difficult for such a farmer, even if he has the will to invest and his farms to invest part of his money into the farm, but he's not too sure of his tenure on the land. The other issue that comes into perspective is access to credit. How easy is a farmer able to access credit? And that is also linked to data when it comes to farm level data. It's also linked to the mindset. What is the business mind of the farmer? Does it take farming as a business, or does it take farming as a hobby? What is the business mindset? And it's also linked to the seasonality of the crop. Once it's seasonal, at the peak of the period, the money comes and the farmer pays the money. After a while, after January, the money goes down. The produce goes down, the money goes down. So if the farmer doesn't have some numeracy and financial skills, the money will be used, and the rest of the season, the farmer will find it difficult to live. He will not have living income to live on. So, in a nutshell, that is what I'll bring to bear to the discussion when it comes to my perspective in terms of the local context.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. Very, very insightful. And if you look at those issues of land tenure, etc., and the wider rural development that needs to take place, what is COCOBOT putting in place also in terms of policies beyond cocoa? As the solution might have to come from multiple industries. That's one of the recommendations from the paper. Do you have a view on that?
Yes, I think the data also speak to the fact that productivity levels are low, very, very low. So to address it, the living income gap, the first thing we are doing is to look at enhancing the productivity of the cocoa farmer. So we are looking at increasing the productivity of the cocoa farmer from 450 kilos per hectare to at least 1,000 kilos per hectare. So we have earmarked upon productivity enhancements program, which include pollination, hand pollination, irrigation, rehabilitating the farms which are moribund and those which are diseased. We are also doing crop protection in terms of mass spraying. We are also enriching the soils. You see, I mentioned earlier on that growing up, the richest people were cocoa farmers. Then they were enjoying from the fact that the lands were virgin. Now the lands are not virgin, they've been overused. The soil fertility level are low. So we are implementing the high-tech program where we give farmers subsidized fertilizer. In the long term, we want the farmer to be a businessman. So we, through our extension program, trying to, through the farmer business school, change the mindset for farmers to consider cocoa farming as a business so that they can save, they can invest part of their money into their farm. The other critical thing that I said is access to credit. To address that, we are currently doing a cocoa management system where every farmer will be mapped. What we say is that we are trying to know our farmers as our farmers know us. So we know our farmers, who they are and where they are. Their produce into this infrastructure will bring data to the financial sector. Discussion with the financial sector is that from there we saw that most financial sector would want to invest and give loans to a 3 billion sector. It's a huge sector that they want to give loans and make money there. But access to data, you need to have data to do your credit assessment. There's no data, farm level data. Cocoa management system is going to give farm level data. It's also going to give an electronic account, an electronic platform where the banks can recover their money at source, where we can also introduce input credits. The supplier can also give inputs on credit and recover their monies from the system. And also, we are looking at introducing the farmer pension scheme. Without data, without this platform, we can't implement it. It is critical. So we believe that these measures that we are putting in place, including farmer cooperative, we are facilitating the formation of farmer cooperative, strengthening them, so that we have that skills. We believe that these measures, in the long run, will help reduce the gap that has been identified.
Thank you so much, Michael, and very exciting things, and especially also the farmer pension plan and the data-driven approach will be welcomed by many, I'm sure. Can you also speak a few words about work that you are doing to stimulate other industries in the country next to cocoa, in the cocoa regions?
Yes, in the cocoa regions, we found out that coffee does well in most of the areas. So in the emerging areas where cocoa is not doing too well, we are encouraging the farmers to grow coffee. The other thing we are doing to introduce additional livelihood, I will not use alternative livelihood because we don't want them to stop growing cocoa. We want to have our cocoa every day. So we are introducing them to additional livelihood. Honey is coming up now. We are partnering the private sector, a credit to the industry. We are doing some pilot programs to see how it goes. Once it goes well, we'll scale them up. We are doing a lot in terms of shade. We give shade, temporary shade like a plantain to the farmers. In the long run, what we are going to do, we are looking at to develop this sector, the plantain sector, so that we can process the plantain into, link the farmers to processors who process the plantain to plantain powder, plantain chips, and be targeting both the local, the market is there, the potential is there. We need to harness that potential and make sure that the farmer earns additional income from some of these activities. So to answer your question, that is what we are doing in the meantime to assess the farm.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amoa and Michael. Thank you. Now I would like to move to the next speaker, Stephanie Daniels, Senior Program Director at Sustainable Food Lab. Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us. We know you're doing a lot of reflective work, right? So you probably have welcomed the paper. What were the most interesting findings for you, Stephanie, and how do you look in general on progress made on living income in cocoa over the past year?
Thank you, Jordi, and thank you to WCF again for hosting this event and inviting us today. Yeah, I really welcome this paper, of course. It's a great contribution to the debate. I think it's an example of how data can be used in a coordinated way for better learning. So I think it's helping us understand the more nuanced income profiles and sustainable livelihood strategies of different households across the cocoa growing regions of West Africa in particular. So I think it helps us give that understanding. You know, as both Kathy and Yuka said, it helps us understand the scale and the scope of the challenge. And we've known this, of course, and it's really the origin of the concept of living income. Indeed, came from conversations in the cocoa sector, in other sectors as well, around are our investments really delivering what we're going for? So thriving farming families that can invest in their farms, covering the cost of a decent standard of living. This paper helps us to understand the scale of that challenge, which is not an easy lift. So, you know, I'm hopeful that we have some really very concrete spaces of coordination and collaboration, the national cocoa standards, the work done by the origin country governments in West Africa to coordinate is really exciting. We heard this morning about the EU multi-sector platform, et cetera. So it's a hopeful time. I think we do need better coordination like this paper and more on different kinds of data and learning as we continue this journey. So we need to continue to update what the costs of living are, especially with COVID and different crises, the cost of food, the cost of housing, what's really happening in the cocoa growing areas. That helps to inform also how much money people need and what fair pricing is. That's really important. Sharing different baselines and particularly effectiveness, so results from programs. Can we do a better job at sharing that? I want to call out this paper as an excellent example of the work of other WCF members like Mars to bring together the 100+ cases of what works to improve incomes, really important. I believe Cargill just published a farm economic model showing income gains from different agroforestry models. This kind of transparency is really needed for us to increase our learning. And cocoa is not the only place that poverty exists. Of course, we know that. So in agricultural sectors, in many places, this same dynamic of commodity markets and widespread poverty have come together to create a dialogue around how we can get to living income in value chains. So there's tremendous momentum in the coffee sector, for example. The International Coffee Organization has a private-public task force, all of the major roasters, producing countries, consumer country governments coming together to announce in a joint communique a commitment to closing living income gaps in primary producing regions, to calculate benchmarks for farm workers, living wage, and smallholders in 80% of ICO member countries by 2025. So the real sort of integrated and ambitious commitment there as well in the coffee sector. And some of these geographies are similar to where cocoa is grown. So I wish we could have been in Colombia. It's a great example where coffee, it's a very dynamic country for coffee, but there are the same dynamics in some of the areas, particularly areas post-conflict, very small farm size, high poverty. There is an effort now to bring together some of the coffee and cocoa stakeholders to look at a joint approach there to both benchmarking and action. The vanilla sector as well has been working very diligently to build up secondary origins, to deal with the price volatility, has recently adopted a living income resolution. There's a very aggressive effort by the tobacco sector, sustainable tobacco platform, to look at living income and living wage. So cocoa is one of the sectors, and of course we need to be laser focused for those organizations working in cocoa on cocoa economics, but this is not only cocoa. So that's important to know. And what that offers to us, I think, also is additional opportunities to collaborate, potentially in landscapes where these common crops, where these crops are grown in the same place. So Mr. Amoa talked about coffee. The Ghana, I believe it was the Cocoa Board, just recently hosted Inter-African Coffee Organization's national meeting. So all African producing countries of coffee came together looking at an African coffee facility to increase the genetic material, the access to inputs for coffee. So how do we better have the coordination between those sectors? And maybe just one last thing, and then I'll stop, is the paper does a really good job of saying we need organizations to play specific roles. So data and science-driven frameworks that help identify what the roles are. So if you're a farmer organization, how can you better increase the efficiency to pass maximum value to your members, negotiate for better markets? Companies, how do you really consider your lead responsibility, as Kathy said, to deliver fair markets, good prices, good trading practices? Governments, critical in the policies and infrastructure, et cetera. So all of us, and platforms like ourselves, I help to co-host the Living Income Community Practice. How can we support learning but not create so many duplicating working groups and discussions? How do we get to better learning, more synthesis for better investment and action?
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and that all makes a lot of sense. And I'm also looking forward to contribute to that with my IDH head on. Maybe one follow-up question, Stephanie. So this landscape approach, we know it. We start knowing it better and better in the deforestation space. How could it work for living income? Do you already have some early thoughts?
It is. I think one and the same. So environmental, social, and economic considerations are integrated, as we all know. So I think that what's needed is better economic modeling and analysis of the growth potential of certain sectors. So I would take, for example, the work that the International Trade Center has done on yam across Africa, but in Ghana in particular, where they're looking at different variety of yam that could be sold nationally, but also could be exported to diaspora and other countries where yam is in high demand. That's an example of sort of and it's being grown by cocoa farmers in many places, and there's some partnerships there. It's still, I think, a nascent effort, but it is a sort of both an effort at the landscape level, the physical geography, but also at the sector level. So I think what's hard is when we think about diversification on the farm level, it's very many small units that we have to think about. We need institutions like ministries of agriculture, international trade centers that can promote these competitive sectors. So as Michael said, you want people to still continue to grow coffee, but it has to be competitive and professionalized, which means there needs to be other options, other economic options as well. So I think that to say that the jurisdictional landscape approach needs good national coordinating bodies to help that happen.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. I'm looking forward to deepen that with your organization and all the others involved. Let me go back to Kati. Kati, you have heard from the other speakers. What enlightens you, and what is, according to you, what would be good next steps, right?
I think a lot has been said, actually, and I'm so pleased to hear Stephanie mention these things as well, and I was also very pleased to hear Michael talk about coffee, and I did indeed, and actually in Côte d'Ivoire we have Conseil Café Cacao, and so working on bringing those together, is a great opportunity. Jordi, and thank you for your energy. I can feel that you're also getting passionate about the topic and ready to jump in. But going back, probably building on what Stephanie was saying, knowing what's going on in the producing countries, understanding the national development plans, the agricultural work that's going on, and just building on the cocoa producing countries' national development plans, and under their lead, actually, we can join forces to develop the strategy and roadmap to diversify and stimulate the rural economies. I think, Stephanie, you were talking about landscapes. You can call it landscapes. You can also look at it at a landscape could be a rural economy. So how can we all work together? One of the thoughts is, can the governments, the producing governments, convene a roundtable so that we can achieve action commitments from all the actors who benefit from those rural economies, and bring that together into a strategy so that we can see options for cocoa farmers. That's one piece, and I think it's critical. One of the things that was really not an eye-opener, I would say, but a good learning for me is for all of us to really go back to what is happening in the producing countries. What are the plans? What are the development plans? And how can we hold hands in helping to see thriving rural economies? And I think, Stephanie, you were also mentioning, you were mentioning data-driven frameworks that identify the individual roles. I think that's definitely an opportunity where we as a sector can become more effective, maybe. Thirdly, there's a whole bunch of practical tools that could allow for meaningful collaboration on initiatives within and also beyond the cocoa sector that could be explored. Of course, as a cocoa industry, it is our role to continue to provide good, clear terms of trade, market access. As you were saying, multi-stakeholder coalitions can look at and implement integrated landscape approaches. Actually, financial institutions can step up even more and provide affordable credit and financing for small-scale initiatives at the rural level. Governments can definitely secure stable and sufficient farm gate prices, but that's related to cocoa. But beyond cocoa, government can definitely look at facilitating small-scale business opportunities in the rural environment. Yeah, I think those are a few of
already quite a few. Yes.
I think maybe to close, it remains important to continue to provide choices, and maybe not only continue to provide, but also create new choices for smallholder families, so they can be at their best.
Thank you so much, Kati. There are a few questions on responsibility for private companies, and especially also when you spoke a lot about landscape approaches or similar type of rural development plans that you would like to activate those. How do you look at the responsibility of private companies in your procurement practices? Can you say something about that?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I didn't see the question completely, but as I mentioned, I mean, we are the economic partner of this supply chain, and as a manufacturer and an end user of cocoa are totally and forever connected to the producing countries, and so that's where we have an important role to play. And it starts by providing, as I was saying, clear terms of trade, good market access, a good price, the right price that enables, alongside all of the other enabling elements for families to earn a living income. All of these factors are the responsibility of the industry. So there's a lot of things that can be looked at. I mean, we're looking at, I don't know whether that can be considered as a responsibility. I guess I don't like the word responsibility. I think role is more important, but you know that we are looking and very much in favor of due diligence or regulation and creating a level playing field among the industry on due diligence, both on deforestation and human rights. That is almost like the foundation that needs to happen. But then beyond that, of course, there's a whole bunch of building blocks where cocoa industry partners can and should play an important role, as I mentioned earlier, some of them.
Absolutely, thank you, Kati. And how would that would it then look like a framework for action that was developed under the Cocoa and Forest Initiative? Would that be a template, or do you have something else in mind to specify each roles and responsibilities, or is it very much an open question at this point?
I think it is a very open question. I'm not sure that it's up to us to define that. I think I would love to be able for us to sit together with Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, for example, look at the development plans that are on the table, look at the plans that are on the table on agriculture and diversification, and then work together to see how we can, off of those national plans, build a framework that is working or leveraging the strengths of each of the actors and the roles and the stakes that each of the actors have in the value chain. But I would say, for example, I mean, you know that we are working on a different topic, but we are working on a public-private partnership on child protection as well. And I think we've come a really long way looking at a framework. That is a really good example, I think. And indeed, you're right, Cocoa and Forest Initiative is another good example. So definitely on income in general and creating a pathway towards a living income, there are good examples already on the table. But I think in this case, because the problem is rooted in the rural economies, I think it is critical that we build on the producing countries and national plans, and that we start from there.
Thank you so much, Kati. Let me go back to Yuka, as I promised to get back to her. Yuka, you heard some of the next steps or at least potential next steps based on the paper you co-authored. How do you look at those? Any views from you?
Well, I fully agree. And the interesting thing is that altogether we have so much knowledge actually out there already to be able to, I would say, cost efficiently decide where to focus actions. And that's also one of the things that we will be describing in the longer paper, a bit more concretely. So what can we do based on the knowledge? And I think that could be well integrated in the plan, if we will be establishing a plan together. Based on, well, combining all the knowledge and the learnings out there to make a good plan that will be effective but also efficient.
Great. Well, thank you, Yuka. Going back to you, Michael. We have a few minutes left. How do you look at these proposed next steps and really coming jointly to the table to look at next steps? Michael, how does it sound to you?
Yes, that sounds good. Already together with industry under the framework of CFI, we started our discussion, trying to align. We are all of us are looking at the same picture. The industry is looking at prosperous farmer. We are also looking at that. For our strategy document, the farmer is the center of the new strategy document which we are developing. In the same way with the CFI's framework, as a pillar, one of the pillars is the farmer prosperity. So I think it's the way to go. We can't do it alone. We need support from industry. We need support. Together we will get there. So it's welcome. And I think that is the way forward if we are to close the gap.
Thank you, Michael. Going quickly back to you, Stephanie, as we still have some minutes left. How would it work for you? Is this concrete enough as a next step, or do you want to make it even more specific for now?
Yeah, I would say that everyone, it's helpful to have this paper, understanding the scope of the challenge, but don't let it paralyze us. So let's continue to be innovative, continue to use your leverage, whether you are sitting in Cocoa House, whether you're a manufacturer, a civil society, to figure out a way to bring more value. And I would just say, we need all of the ammunition. So there's no silver bullet maybe, but we have a lot of ammunition. So thinking about the policies at different level, price, productivity, diversification, enabling environment, these need to pull together. And I'm hopeful.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So it sounds like we need another smart mix of solutions, as well as Justin Adams referred to in the last session as well. So a lot of smart mixes need to come together. And let me move to the end of the session. Thank you, speakers of the panel, and thank you, Kati and Yuka, for bringing the paper alive with your teams. Very exciting. And indeed, let's also end on a high note, right? There has never been more commitment to work together on living income than ever before. There have never been more commitments also in terms of public funding for closing living income gaps than ever before. And also as IDAs, we're looking forward to really address this issue and move forward. Now let me move back to Buddy. Buddy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jordi, and the rest of the speakers in this very insightful session. And I would encourage all of you to please go and check out the link in the chat to this new study. It seems like, just from what I've heard today, there's really good information in there that many of us can find very useful. Now, I know that you're all eager to join our exciting breakout sessions, of which there are 8, because some of the sessions, which they have limited capacity, are already full. But this is our last session together as a group. So I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the World Cocoa Foundation to thank all of our sponsors, and most notably, again, our gold sponsor, Mondelez. And of course, to thank all of our outstanding speakers who have taken the time to participate, make presentations, and essentially give their personal experience and insight in a very useful and succinct and insightful way. And then last but not least, we would like to thank you, our participants, who have participated in this first online partnership meeting. We hope you have found it to be valuable and insightful and worth your time. In the next weeks, the platform that you have been using for this event will remain up, so you can continue to network with colleagues that you have met and acquaintances that you've met through the platform. In fact, we are aware that there are a number of private messages going around through the platform, so we see that there is some utility in that. So you can continue to do that over the next few weeks. You can also use the platform to watch content that you might have missed, or to rewatch content that you particularly enjoyed. In the upcoming 8 breakout sessions, these are the 8 breakout sessions that we're going to have. There's something for everyone. We've assembled a great cast of experts, practitioners, policymakers, and industry players, etc., who will shed light from their personal perspective on each of the topics. And I have no doubt that it will be very good to participate in. So please visit the agenda tab to log into a session. Also on the agenda tab, you will find Leadership Voices videos from all around the world. And we greatly encourage you to watch these in your own time. They're perhaps too long for us to be able to in this platform, but they're really very interesting to watch on your own time. These include interventions from Javier Lasso, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock in the government of Ecuador, Mustalifa Mahmoud, Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture in the Republic of Indonesia, Joseph Boahen JB Aidu, CEO of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Sanda Ojiambo, Executive Director, United Nations Global Compact. And last but not least, a message from empowered communities from the Yanomami people in the Brazilian Amazon and cocoa farmers in Ghana, Bali, and more. So hopefully we've left you with enough to chew on for the next few weeks, and enjoy the breakout sessions. Take care.